Joe Kiernan is a resident of North Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, and he regularly sees mysterious lights in the sky. We'll talk with Joe about the strange activity in his area, as well as fireball UFOs over North Carolina and new discoveries by the Kepler Space Telescope, and other space and UFO news right now on Spacing Out.
Greetings everyone and welcome to Spacing Out. I'm Jason McClellan.
And I'm Maureen Ellsbury.
Thanks for joining us today. Later in the show we'll talk with Joe Kiernan about mysterious lights in South Carolina. But first, let's discuss some UFO headlines.
British celebrity Robbie Williams is reportedly in the process of buying a California island for use as a location for UFO watching.
Williams recently placed a bid of nearly $660,000 for White Rock Island, a 1.3-acre island 22 miles off the coast of Los Angeles, California. Business Standard reports that the singer wants the island in order to spot UFOs in private. The location is apparently ideal for sky watching, and he reportedly fell in love with the island more than a year ago when he went there with his wife to watch for UFOs.
This news comes just days after other reports hinted that Williams' interest in UFOs was simply a fad from which his interest had waned. On August 31st, The Sun reported that Williams had shifted his focus from UFOs to fashion, launching his own clothing line.
According to The Sun, Williams' interest in UFOs developed after feeling burned out on his musical career. He wanted to spend his time making UFO documentaries. And, as Business Standard points out, he even attended a UFO convention, which happens to be our conference, the UFO Congress. But, as Williams reportedly explained, that wasn't going to work out for me. It just made me weird and, at the time, fat. Weird and fat, looking at UFOs. The Sun explained he was ridiculed in the past for his interest in outer space, notably when he claimed a UFO had visited him in the studio right after he penned a track about aliens.
But based on the reports of his interest in buying this island for the sole purpose of watching the skies for UFOs, it would seem that Robbie Williams is still very interested in the subject.
A fireball UFO appeared over North Carolina at approximately 10 p.m. on Wednesday, August 29th.
According to local Fox affiliate WGHP Fox 8, multiple witnesses reported seeing the fireball shooting across the sky. A website listing recent meteor and fireball sightings indicates that people from cities all across the state reported seeing the object. Fox 8 reports that most people reported seeing a bright light or green flash across the sky between 9:45 and 10:15 p.m.
But AshVegas.com, a website covering local news for the North Carolina city of Asheville, reports that a fireball was above that city at about 10:48 p.m. on that night. The site also reports that this fireball was spotted in a 5-state area, including North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, Kentucky, and Virginia, with most spottings seemingly clustered around Asheville, Charlotte, and Greensboro.
With the range of sighting reports spanning approximately an hour, it is plausible that more than one fireball UFO appeared in the sky above North Carolina. Although the object or objects were most likely meteors or other space debris entering Earth's atmosphere, a positive identification has not been made.
Meteorite collector Stuart McDaniel is one of the witnesses who was able to capture the fireball on video and is confident that a meteor is what fell from the sky.
The National Atomic Testing Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada is hosting a special lecture on September 22nd titled Military UFOs, Secrets Revealed.
Speakers of the lecture include Nick Pope, former UK UFO desk officer, Colonel Bill Coleman, former chief spokesman for Project Blue Book. And most of you are probably familiar with Blue Book, but for those who aren't, it was one of the United States Air Force's studies of UFOs. And Colonel Robert Friend, a former director of Project Blue Book, Colonel Charles Halt, former deputy base commander of the RAF Bentwaters military base in England, and Colonel John Alexander, UFO author and investigator.
John Alexander told Lee Spiegel of the Huffington Post, "What you're getting from this panel are people who have worked with the military, all of whom certainly agree that UFOs are real. And I think most of them would say it ought to be researched."
For more information about this special lecture, go to nationalatomictestingmuseum.org. Maureen, I'm really excited about this event at the National Atomic Testing Museum. They've managed to put together some great events in the past with some really great speakers, and now they're putting together this Military Men and UFOs special lecture. And the people speaking at this are some fantastic speakers. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really excited to see people that were involved in Project Blue Book. I don't think that we've actually, really heard from people so deeply involved with it. I don't think they've spoken publicly before.
If you remember, the National Atomic Testing Museum in Las Vegas is where they recently opened the Area 51 exhibit.
Earlier this year.
And they've had people speaking, people who actually work at Area 51 were involved in putting together that exhibit. They're taking the advantage of having this Smithsonian-affiliated museum and this Area 51 exhibit to use it as a platform to get information out and to get people asking questions and to considering possibilities.
Well, I think it's a super credible platform too, which is really great for the subject, and they're getting these great guests. And we actually covered the George Knapp event earlier this year.
Right.
And I'm excited. I mean, we know Colonel Alexander and Nick Pope very well, and Colonel Halt. Supposedly, there will be some sort of UFO secret revealed.
It's a spectacular event, and I hope it catches the media and the public's attention, because these are high-ranking military officials disclosing things that they either personally experienced or they have knowledge about. So it's worth, I think, a lot of attention. It's pretty big-time stuff.
Yeah, so if you're in the area, definitely try and come out, and then you can talk with Jason and I as well. Or stay tuned, and we'll report back on
yeah,
we'll
definitely
happens.
talk about it on a future episode, but if you want to meet up with us, that'd be cool. And who doesn't want to go to Vegas, right? So that's what's in the news this week. And Maureen, it's interesting to see Robbie Williams back in the news. He was big in the news for a while with his UFO fascination, and then kind of disappeared from, at least from international news.
Yeah, I mean, first last week it was, I'm fat and weird because I researched UFOs, and then this week we have, I'm going to buy a private island. And it's possible that he's trying to be recognized for more than just UFOs, which is what's going on right now.
Right.
And we'll see, I guess. I hope that, he's not pushing so much that it's become such a big stigma towards my personality that I'm giving up all this, what I was really passionate about. Because that's kind of backpedaling and sort of lame.
I doubt he'll do that, and here's why. I mean, he really wanted to focus full time on this, and he'd even made comments in the past about wanting to become a ufologist. He wanted to spend his time researching UFOs, and he hasn't been shy about that. He does admit that his interest in UFOs has been sort of a publicity nightmare, as he says. Maybe that's how he interprets it. I mean, he's gotten a lot of press because of it, and unfortunately, I think a lot of press about interest in UFOs tends to be negative. That's a sad reality of things right now. But he's buying an island so he can watch the skies for UFOs.
I would like to take this moment to say, Robbie Williams, I would like to be invited to your private island to watch UFOs. So, Jason, we have another fireball UFO, and
there's so many fireball UFOs now.
Right, and like we said in the story, it's most likely a meteor or some other type of space junk, especially when you see those bright green flashes that look really unearthly.
That's a good indicator, but it is interesting that we're seeing so many more of these green fireballs too. They seem to be becoming more and more common.
There was a bit of a debate when we had this on our Facebook page that people were getting upset that we were referring to it as a UFO because they were like, that is definitely a meteor. But then they were saying, no, but it could also be space junk. Well, so technically that's unidentified.
Right.
We're not saying it's an extraterrestrial spacecraft. We're saying it is a flying object that is currently unidentified.
Right. It's unfortunate that people form such a strong opinion immediately on things like this. People say, oh, it was definitely a meteor. And then you suggest, well, couldn't it have also been space junk? And they're all, oh yeah, sure, it could have been space junk, but it's not an alien flying saucer. I don't know, that seems is jumping to conclusions, and it's certainly not scientific. But
well, people will do what they'll do.
That's right. But a lot of fireballs, and I think we're going to see a lot more fireballs too. In space news this week, in April 2011, funding issues forced the SETI Institute to suspend operations at their Allen Telescope Array in Hat Creek, California. This array allows the organization to scan the skies for possible extraterrestrial signals, so shutting it down was a hindrance to SETI's search for extraterrestrial intelligence. But through a public fundraising campaign, funds were raised to bring the array back online in August 2011. And thanks to startup company Uwingu, more money may be on the way.
Uwingu describes itself on crowdfunding platform Indiegogo as a startup planning to create cool new ways for space exploration, research, and education to be funded. NBC News digital science editor Alan Boyle reports that Uwingu announced on Wednesday, August 29th, that half of any money it raises beyond the initial amount sought through its Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign would go to the SETI Institute to support its Allen Telescope Array. According to Space.com, Uwingu seeks to offer an alternative to the traditional avenues for space research funding, like NASA and the National Science Foundation, especially as these agencies face harsh budget cuts.
It's interesting to see a new company pledging money before it has any of its own. Uwingu CEO Alan Stern recently stated, "We don't have to wait to begin helping space research until we launch our first product. We're starting now." As of September 4th, the company has reached more than $32,000 of its $75,000 goal.
SETI CEO Tom Pearson told AOL in August 2011 that the Allen Telescope Array costs $2,500,000 a year to operate. So any funding provided by Uwingu will most likely be appreciated.
Noted theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking has stated on multiple occasions that if extraterrestrials visit Earth, they will be hostile. And just recently, another physicist announced his grim outlook for alien visitation.
During his recent presentation at the 28th General Assembly of the International Astronomical Union in Beijing, astrophysicist Brian P. Schmidt advised against attempting contact with intelligent extraterrestrials. According to Space Daily, Schmidt stated, "I think it is probably not the smartest thing to tell the aliens where we are, as any encounter with aliens may not be a happy one."
But Schmidt, who won the 2011 Nobel Prize in Physics, also suggests that extraterrestrials are so far away from Earth that an alien attack isn't something with which Earthlings should be concerned. He explained, "It will be so far away and it takes so long to travel from point A to point B in the universe that an alien encounter won't be a problem."
Jill Tarter, former director of the Center for SETI Research, announced earlier this year that she disagrees with the cynical views of alien visitation like those of Stephen Hawking. She said, "While Sir Stephen Hawking warned that alien life might try to conquer or colonize Earth, I respectfully disagree."
Although views related to possible motives of visiting extraterrestrials differ, the topic of intelligent extraterrestrial life is being discussed more often by leading scientific minds.
Astronomers discovered a solar system where two planets orbit twin suns.
Space.com explains that most stars like our sun are not singletons, but rather come in pairs that orbit each other. But this recent discovery is the first time two planets have been detected orbiting a pair of stars.
Scientists analyzed data from NASA's Kepler space telescope, and from this data, they discovered this circumbinary system, Kepler 47, with planets Kepler 47b and Kepler 47c. The findings were published on August 28th in the journal Science, and study co-author William Welsh told Space.com, "The thing I find most exciting is the potential for habitability in a circumbinary system. Kepler 47c is not likely to harbor life, but if it had large moons, these would be very interesting worlds."
With roughly half of the galaxy's stars in binary systems, this recent finding indicates that there are many more places for scientists to look for life beyond Earth. And the Kepler Space Telescope is back in the news, of course, because it has so much data to go through, and scientists are still going through it, and they're going to be going through it for a long time, and we're going to continue talking about it because it's finding so many interesting things. And with this study, again, we're finding that the potential for habitability in the galaxy is just infinite.
Right, and I think the whole highlight of the story is it's orbiting twin stars, and the likelihood that life exists on 47c is slim to none, but the whole interesting part is the moons. So they said that if it has large moons, that life there, it could be incredible.
Also, I mean, just looking where potential habitable zones exist, we're finding now that that could be really in most of the universe. It keeps growing and growing and growing, and I think it will.
It's cool, but I want to land on all these planets if we only could.
They're too far away. Let's focus on our solar system, but I share your desire.
I can dream.
Yeah. So, Maureen, we have another physicist talking about extraterrestrials and coming up with the opinion that extraterrestrials visiting are going to be hostile. This is getting old.
Well, it's a lot of speculation, and
so much speculation.
But I kind of find it fascinating how much press that all of these, studies bring out for each of the different physicists. Or
right.
you know, they're saying the same thing or they're speculating the same thing, but it doesn't have a huge basis in scientific fact.
With things like this, with physicists saying, well, based on how humans would act, this is what extraterrestrials are going to do. And grouping extraterrestrials as this singular group into one ball and saying all extraterrestrials are going to behave like this.
But then he's coming back. He's coming back at the same time and saying, but it doesn't even matter because the likelihood, even if we put out where we were there, you know, where we are, that they would attack us because they're so many light years away. Well, so who cares then? What are you saying?
Yeah, no, it's interesting speculation, but you're right. It is surprising how much publicity this stuff gets.
Stephen Hawking started a trend.
Yeah.
Now let's talk with our guest today, Joe Kiernan.
Joe, we are happy to have you on the show today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.
All right, Joe, I'm excited to talk with you because you and I have exchanged emails back and forth for quite a while, but I've been really fascinated by what you've been seeing. You've been seeing so many interesting things in the sky near you, and you are in South Carolina, right?
That is correct. South Carolina, North Myrtle Beach.
North Myrtle Beach.
Pretty much the last town on the coast on the northern part of the state, right on the edge where North and South Carolina meet.
Okay. Now, you're seeing things in the sky both the day and the night. How long have you been seeing stuff? Is this just a recent thing?
I've seen a few things in the past 6 to 12 months that were questionable. Something where you think you saw something and then you look back at it and it's not there and you're just not too sure. But about 6 weeks ago, I got a phone call from someone about 30 miles south of me and told me he was seeing something right over his house, and he seemed pretty shooken up. And I went outside and I looked in his direction, and I saw exactly what he was describing. It was a lot of sparkle lights, a lot of white sparkly lights, many of them, dozens. At times looked like 2 dozen, at times could have been 6 dozen or more. They would travel along the sky and weave in and out of each other and just fly in all different strange patterns. And then they would just stop and fade out, and you wouldn't see any of them. And then one by one, they would just light up just with this bright glowing orange yellowish, just very intense glowing light, as if I were holding a basketball or a beach ball at arm's length. It just this huge glowing light. And he could see him in his house, I could see him in my house. And like I said, he was 30 miles away. And that night began it all. That night, we watched that happening, and I had people here with me. We watched that go on for about 3 hours the first night. They were just going north and south, up and down the beach, and every time they flew north to south, they moved a little more inland, it seemed. The altitude was constant. There was clouds in the sky. The clouds were fairly low. They never went into the clouds. They stayed really low. The next night, it occurred again. And I went outside that following night at 9:30 p.m. and it was already going on. And we watched it that second night till 1 in the morning that night. And I had upwards of 40, 50 people watching it the second night from the amount of people I told the first night. And then by the third night, just so many different people were contacting me through one person or another, and it had hit the news. And the reporter had come out here, and people one way or another find out how to contact me through news reports. And a lot of people were really shooken up by it here. And after that first initial week, 2 weeks after that, in the beginning of August, it all happened again. And it lasted for 4 nights, maybe more. Other people claim they saw it other nights, but personally, I just saw it for 4 straight nights. And it was the same thing occurring all over again. A lot of the white sparkling lights, followed by this very intense glowing orange light. And I have seen them during the day, but 1% compared to what actually is seen at night. And these things at night, the way they move around and the way they glow with this intense orange light, it's just incredible. I've talked to so many people on the beach that I've bumped into that were there because they've seen it a night or two prior. And they're just, they're almost just taken back by it. They need to know what it was, and it's really incredible when you see it. It's it's huge. These orange lights are just enormous. They're just enormous. I mean, they light up almost the size of a moon when it's a full moon. And like I said, I could see these as well as other people that are 30 plus miles away. It's incredible. And lately, it's just been a strong military presence. But we've done everything we can. There's a lot of people I've been in contact with that are just looking for some answers. We're not getting answers from anyone. We've tried the news. We've tried MUFON. It's just we're just looking for some answers. The FAA claims there was nothing reported and nothing going on, and Shaw Air Force Base was confirming the same thing while we were physically seeing them at the same time. The news reporter that had come out to my house to see them on our second night of viewing them, I offered him to come back and possibly catch what we were seeing on his camera. He had much better cameras than we had, and he was reluctant to come back. However, I did give him a call at 10:30 that night, and he was about 25 miles south of me, right in the heart of the city of Myrtle Beach, and I let him know what I was seeing and in which direction to look. And he had his eyes on them, and they flew right over his house. And then he called me back and let me know they were on their way back up towards me. And sure enough, they were, and they did.
Was that News Channel 15, the ABC affiliate?
15, yeah.
Yeah.
It was coincidental how we actually met. The first night on July 18th, where we really saw a lot going on for about 3 hours. He had called me the following day. I had contacted MUFON, letting them know what I had just seen, because it was just overwhelming. I had never filed a UFO report before this. I'm interested in the topic. I have never been a sky watcher, but this has not been a goal of mine to try to prove anything to anybody. It was just happening so often and so frequently. I can't help but look at this guy. I can't stay inside. But this reporter's really been taken back, and we've been in good communication with each other. And he came back and he did a second piece on it, and I was hoping he would get on the air and say what he saw, but he did not, and I understand why. And he did mention to me why off camera, off the record, and I'll respect him on that because he was fair to me during the interview. I was worried how it was going to turn out. But in respect to his wishes, I mean, he's easy to find. His report is online. But you know, there was even one night I was on the beach, and a few of us were watching this, and one of the beach patrol officers had come by, and he stopped, and he came over to us, and he asked how long we were looking at it, because he had just seen it, and he noticed a lot of people were looking at it, and I told him we were looking at these lights for about 15 minutes at that point. And then he called another patrol officer to come down, and they both watched him with us for about 15 minutes, and they called it in, and there was nothing going on. There should have been nothing in the area, but military helicopters were really only maybe 15 minutes behind that phone call he put in, and I would be really shocked if the military were to say they do not see these lights. They're in the same proximity as them often. We have seen a jet chase one of these lights. Of course, I wish I had better cameras for all of this, but again, it's not my intention to expose these. It was merely just saying, hey, this is what's going on here. Anyone who takes it serious and anyone who wants the opportunity to really capture something phenomenal, here's your opportunity. And but even with MUFON, I still have yet had MUFON come down here. I've spoken with the state investigator who's 2 hours inland from here in Columbia, South Carolina, and that gentleman has yet to come out here as well.
That's baffling to me. I don't understand why.
Stopped communicating with him. I was wasting a lot of my time when there was actually things going on outside. I was going inside and contacting him, whether it was a phone call or email. And then I asked him, you know, are you the end of the line? Is anyone else going to be contacting me, or am I just contacting you so you could document this? And they're just documenting it. In my case, I don't know. Overall, I'd like to think they do have a purpose and a goal which they created the site for. However, there's nothing going on here. There's no help from anywhere. I would like to think if a crazy animal washed on shore, there would be cryptozoologists pouring in from. I guess I'm more shocked there's no turnout than what I'm actually seeing in the sky.
Now, didn't you say that the Coast Guard actually did try to come out and investigate what was going on, but they had to abort mission for some reason?
Yeah, that's very true. We've seen the Coast Guard several times, and by that I mean the orange and white helicopters. I can't confirm that's who they are. They do fly in pairs of two, but it did make the news and was in the newspapers that the Coast Guard was called in of reports of flares being shot out over the ocean, which I would understand. I would understand if they had 1,000 reports of flares coming in. It's incredible. But they had to ground the two helicopters. They said people were shining green lasers at the helicopters, which disrupted their flight, so they had to land, and the pilots were not cleared by a doctor to take flight again, so they had to wait for a Coast Guard boat to come in from Charleston. I have followed up on the story. I have contacted the reporter in hopes to find out where that story has gone. Did they ever find these flares? Was the search prolonged? Was it called off? Because we can help. These are not flares. They are up and down the whole beach. I have dozens of videos of these orange flares at night, but they're no better than the next one. I would completely understand if someone said it looks like someone shining a flashlight. I understand that. I can post dozens of them on YouTube, but my intentions were to just bring awareness to someone who really wants to capture something, someone who's looking for this, someone who says, boy, I wish I knew where they were frequently so I could get a good chance at this. This was the opportunity. I'm not looking for an award. I'm not trying to make any videos. I'm not trying to hoax anybody. This has taken up a great deal of my time, which this has never been a topic of my studies before. But this has become overwhelming. There's a lot of people that need answers around here. I'd love to know what's going on. At times when they're here, when these lights are going on for 2 or 3 hours, they do become overwhelming at a time. To just think that no one else sees these, and by that I mean authorities or military officials, that no one sees what's going on here. It just blows my mind. I'd like to think if there were 100 weather balloons, they would at least tell me there's 100 weather balloons, or there's tell me there's no threat. Tell me it's not a drug cartel flying in looking.
Right.
Tell me something.
Yeah, we certainly understand your frustration, and a lot of people who see UFOs go through this frustration because they know exactly what they saw, and in your case, seeing it repeatedly, and you're not the only one seeing it. You told me that hundreds of people on the beach are seeing this with you, police officers and other people. I mean, it's mind-boggling why people aren't paying attention to this and why nobody is figuring out what the hell is in the sky. It's crazy.
I've spoken to a gentleman that works for the city of Myrtle Beach, and he drives a bus up and down Ocean Boulevard. And this gentleman not only saw these orange lights and white lights, but they were so close to him in proximity that he actually stopped the bus, and people had gotten off the bus to take photographs of this. And this gentleman contacted me through one source or another, and he told me his family and himself were having trouble sleeping because he had gone home and the whole family watched them all night long. And I understand exactly what he's talking about. I have 3 children myself, and my oldest child was out there one night watching them with us, and she did become overwhelmed after a few hours also. They appeared to be getting closer, those orange glowing lights, and more frequent. And after a while, you start to realize no one's coming. No one's checking on these. Are we safe? You really have a lot of thoughts that start going through your mind, because at first it's just excitement. It's just, wow, look at that. How incredible is that? But when they hang around for a while and it comes back day after day, and people are just telling you you're not seeing anything while you're standing with 50 other people, it's just, you really have to start wondering what's going on. And are we okay? Is everything all right? It's a funny place to test government, test aircraft, or or anything government related. I mean, there's 100,000 tourists on this beach every day right now. It's peak season. It's just, it's not a safe place to test aircraft over this beach. This beach is packed. You can't find a spot on this beach during the day, or night for that matter. The beach doesn't close here in South Carolina. So people are out on the beach, and fireworks are okay. So people go out and light off firecrackers out on the beach. But it's turned into something different. When these lights are going on, it's more of a show. I've seen these hotels literally empty out, and people have been on these beaches. I don't know where all these photographs are. I've seen people taking them. I have videos of people taking photographs. It's been very difficult for me to locate people once I had my first initial sighting. I tried to find other people in the area who have seen the same thing, and it was very difficult to get that ball moving. But as soon as I found a couple of people, now I have come across at least 100 other people that have incredible stories, as well as videos and pictures, but they're all the night videos. They're easily dismissed, and I understand that. But yet again, through all of this, I'm just trying to get someone who really wants to make something happen, and someone who has the proper cameras, and someone that really wants to take a chance, or someone who does this as a hobby. This is a great opportunity. It happens frequently, and when it does happen, it's never a one-night thing. It's as soon as we see it usually goes for about 3 days, 3 nights, because there's not that much seen during the day. I have spent hours during the day with other people looking for them, and they're just difficult. It's when it's a clear sky, it's just so bright, it's hard to see anything, and especially with the digital cameras, we really can't even see the screens that it's so bright. You can't tell if you're focused in on what you're trying to get. So I did catch a pretty good video at dusk, but it was in very strange lights, but it's not the same lights that we've been seeing regularly. So it's not something I'm 100% behind, although it was really interesting. And there have been a lot of very interesting lights that go on, but these white sparkling lights and these orange glowing orbs are just outrageous. They're everything else is second to these things. These things, they're overwhelming, and I understand why they are.
You mentioned, the heavy military activity around there. Now, is that something new, or has there always been a lot of military activity around your area?
That is incredibly new. I understand there are air shows from time to time. Usually we know about them, and jets do come in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 when they do, or they'll fly down the beach. But this is a once a month sort of thing, or it's rare. But when they fly down the beach, everyone's aware that jets just flew down the beach. Military helicopters do the same thing. They'll fly in several groups. They do training missions down in this area and right off the coast. And if you look, you'll see them, and we're outside an awful lot, and we do see them. They're once a month or every 2 weeks. They fly a regular course right down the ocean and then right back up the ocean. But since this has all been happening, we've had jets, we've had so many military helicopters and the Coast Guard helicopters and planes I've never even seen before. The planes that look like they could take off like a helicopter and then fly like a plane afterwards, with a propeller on each wing, but they could go horizontal and vertical. I've seen them on TV or pictures before. I've never seen one anywhere. And all of these have showed up in the exact location of all of my videos. I caught a very strange white orb right here in my development over the woods for about 3 hours during the day. And I've posted several clips of it. And the following day, the 2 military helicopters, right first thing in the morning, were there circling the exact same trees of which I was filming the day prior. And they didn't just fly by. They flew around and circled that location 200 feet off the ground, maybe 250. They looked a lot less, but I know they were at least 200 feet up. But I have videos and pictures of all of that, and that's just when it began. But they returned there several times throughout the day, and it was always a group of 2 helicopters. But the military jets, they've increased. the military jets are usually only present after a couple of days of people seeing these things around here. It's very rare that when we're in the middle of seeing all of these lights that the jets arrive. We have seen helicopters in the same proximity of these lights, but the jets not so often. But the military presence has gone up between helicopters, planes, and boats. I don't want to say to a frightening level, but there's definitely something going on. When we first started seeing these, we were in contact, and by we, I mean myself, have been in contact with Shaw Air Force Base, and they made claims that they had nothing going on here. The nearest training operations they had were in New Jersey. And that was while we were looking at these with our own eyes at that moment. It wasn't earlier, it wasn't 2 days prior. It was physically while it was going on. And he said there was nothing going on here. And at that moment, FAA claimed there was nothing going on. They had no planes over that area. So I don't know what they are. To me, they're still just lights. I haven't had any better look at them than anybody else. I don't even want to speculate what they are. I'd love to know. I'd love to know. I'm sure there's a lot of people. Since this has all happened, I've been researching now, and I've seen these orange light reports here along this beach going back almost 10 years now. Just last week, I spoke with a pilot who's been a pilot for 27 years flying commercially in and out of the Myrtle Beach International Airport. And not only has he seen these lights, but he himself has video of these lights as well. Now, they're the same videos I have at night, but this is a credible, this is a 27-year commercial airline pilot, and he has his own video. So he's not just claiming he saw what I saw. He brought his own video to the table. And this is firefighters, police officers, lawyers, people of all kinds of professions, all kinds of vacationers. I think that's another problem we're having is the majority of these witnesses that are seeing these on the beach are vacationers, and they return home and they don't know what they see off the sky here on a nightly basis. I talked to a lot of these people. A lot of these people don't know if this is some sort of a part of a show, or because they already see several of us there in anticipation and looking, and they're all taken back, and a lot of them think it is some sort of a sleight of hand. It's a parlor trick because we're there to observe it, of course. Mm-hmm. And it never gets old watching someone's face trying to figure out what something is. It's like a baby seeing himself in the mirror for the first time. Quite confusing, but you can't look away.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you've done, a pretty good job of trying to find answers, and it's a frustrating process. But, I certainly hope more people get interested and will come out and take a look for themselves, and bring better cameras. It'd be great to get a better look at these things. But as you said, at night, it's difficult to see much.
It is. With the naked eye, of course.
Right.
It's incredible because these lights, even just the ones that stay solid white, they're very bright. They're 5 times larger than any plane light, and they don't blink, and they're awfully quick. That said, we have video one night of jet chasing one of these. You could hear the jet, but in the video you can't see the jet. I don't pick up the blinking light of the jet. I don't pick up any stars. It's very difficult to shoot at night. So really it just looks like a white light I'm following through the sky with my commentary on it. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of my videos are. I mean, I really have dozens and dozens. I might have 50 videos that are 10 minutes long of shooting these things at night, but they just look like lights. So I'm kind of hoping we could materialize this into someone who's a little more credible, someone a little more experienced with the proper gear, because there's something going on here. I'd love to know what's going on, and there's a lot of other people around here that would like to do the same.
So we've got a nice span of country between us, and I told you I'd love to come out there, and we'll certainly come out there if we get the opportunity, but I do hope someone closer to you will take the opportunity.
Well, hopefully this will bring it to light.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Thank you so much for
thank you so
joining
much,
us.
Joe. Appreciate your time, and we'll keep in touch because this is a really interesting case, and there's definitely something going on there, and I think we'd all like to know what it is. So
I give you my word, I'll stay on top of it.
All right. Thanks,
Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
That's all for this episode of Spacing Out. Be sure to visit openminds.tv for all the latest news, and be sure to join us next week when we'll talk about Los Angeles UFO sightings with Steve Murillo. the section director for MUFON LA.
Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Maureen Ellsbury.
And I'm Jason McClellan. We will see you in the future.